So we're going to move right into our Class 1 build here. Our intent with this truck on the Skeleton J2 chassis is actually to create a two-door Jeep that sits low to the ground, which is why we're going to use our flat skid option here for the center. We're also going to try to create something that's going to have a smaller tire. We're going for somewhere around a 3.75 to 3.9 size tire diameter, and that'll fit really well inside the Jeep wheel well. We're going to build on the two-door hard body for our Class 1, so we decided we're going to use the RC four-wheel drive K44 axle housings for this build. There was a couple of reasons for choosing these over the others that are on the market. The K44 is a pretty popular Jeep axle as well, so that seems to suit our mostly stock-looking truck. And we also wanted to tell you about some of the innovative new brackets that we've come up with. Of course, RC four-wheel drive sells a link kit for this truck already, and the link kit looks like this. It's got this bridge over top here. As you can see, we've got our top center links mounted onto it, and along with the bridge it comes with these great little lower link brackets, which we're familiar with from the Galand builds and the Yota axles. So this is these are all pretty popular parts. There's only one little problem that I have with this setup, and that is that in the rear, of course, this is fine. You can use the top links centered, you can use the lower links the way that they already are, and this is a great setup. But in the front, how are you supposed to get this to turn into a nice, clean 3-link panhard kit? It's not that easy if you want to keep the axle clean. So we didn't want to have an entire bridge across the top of our axle here, so we decided we were going to innovate some brackets to do this job, and part of that was developed right into the J2 chassis set so that this whole package would work together as a unit. And what we've got here is a brand new K44 Yota axle bracket, and I'll bring that right in to show it to you here. So this little bracket right here bolts on to the spring perch the same way that the RC four-wheel drive link bracket does. You can see that their link bracket bolts on here, but instead of having this huge bulky bridge across the top, what we've done is change the bridge for this very small little bracket. You can see there's a small little wee bracket that just bolts on right to the top of the perch, the spring perch, and being such a cute little thing, it gives us the opportunity to have our panhard bar across the top right here, and we also have our top third link bolted right here. So all of this just fits right together now. These of course are our lower links, and once we start the frame assembly you'll see how really easy this is, and at the end of the day you get a really clean axle. I mean, we're going to have a situation that looks like this instead of having an axle in the front that kind of looks like this, with the pig offset but this huge big bridge across the top. We don't want that, and the other reason we don't want that is because with this new bracket we can actually keep the third link here way off to the side, right down near the frame. So the third link is going to go straight down the frame rail instead of being somewhere in the middle of the truck going on an angle to the frame rail and clogging up a bunch of room and real estate in the front. We've got the maximum amount of room for our steering. There's all kinds of space here in the front, and we'll have no issue getting our links across. So that's our setup on the K44, and actually this bracket and then the associated panhard bracket, both of those are available as a K44 Yota axle third link panhard kit on the GCM website, so you can have a look for those. Now, I want to give you step one of our build. Aside from getting the brackets assembled on our Yota axles or our K44 axles for this Class 1, what we're going to do is showcase first of all step one, which is assembling your axial transmission on the motor plate. Seems like a pretty legit simple thing for everybody to do, but I want to give you a couple of tips on doing this the real easy way. Now, as you know, the axial transmission can actually be assembled backwards. So right now we've got this in the stock configuration. If you were to take this transmission out of an SCX 10, you could literally drop it right into this bracket just the way that you see it right now. no problem. So there's no flip happening on this, but the way that the J2 skeleton chassis is designed, you can use the motor bracket to be a driver's side drop or a passenger side drop simply by flipping all the components to the other side of the vehicle, and by flipping the axial transmission output to this side instead of on that side. So if you assemble it backwards, you can get two chassis in one. If you happen to need a scale chassis that happens to have a right side dropped axle, you can still use all these components and get all the same features except on a right side drop instead of on a left side drop, just by flipping the parts. So this motor bracket, of course, includes the 3 white plastic spacers that you see used here. Once you take off the big spur cover that comes with the axial transmission, you need to put these 3 spacers in here to make sure that the transmission has a solid seat on the motor mount. So you see where those are. We used all the original axial hardware here. There was no hardware changed. The spur gear dropped right back on. We put on our 35 turn Tekin hand wound motor here, and we've got a what I think is a 16 tooth pinion, but it could be a 14, but we've got a nice small pinion here on our 87 tooth. Probably this truck will run a 3-cell, so that'll give us a little bit of kick at the top end, and we're going to have a nice low crawl at the bottom end, and no real stress on this motor at all. So there's how you set up your transmission, and I've already shown you the axle brackets and how we set up the link mounts on the axle brackets. One of our favorite things to do is with the GCM links that we always use, getting these rod ends assembled first, putting a set screw in the rod end, getting the rod ends on the axle. This has no link tube on it yet, and there's a reason for that, because we find that this is so easy to set up if you do this part first. Get the axles and the rod ends on the axles before you get the rest of the frame built, and you'll see why that's so important in a little bit later. So for now, that's the introduction to what we're doing with our Class 1 J2 skeleton frame build. We're going to go ahead and get these frame components assembled and try to get this thing all put up together, and when it's stacked up looking like a frame, we'll come back here and give you an update and talk about how to set up the center skid plate, the frame side of the links, and our GCM transfer case. Be right back.